everybody hear me okay out there?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hey, if everyone will mute their phones or their telephone lines, that way we don't get any of the backdrop and distortion as well. But this is intended to be interactive, so you can either shoot a message on chat for me there, or feel free to unmute your phone and interject any question you want, okay? Our goal here on Job Talk is to be interactive based on feedback that Mark has captured from all of our followers and whatnot. We want to make this event to benefit you folks, right? What we see from the desk that we sit in, from a job search standpoint, from a resume standpoint. So feel free to stop me at any point, okay? So first and foremost, welcome everybody. This is our first Job Talk webinar. We're going to cover a bunch of things. For those that are not familiar, my name's Matt Peel. I'm one of the partners here at Impact Business Group. I've been in the staffing industry for over 20 years. By degree education trade, I'm a programmer, converted, like I said, 20 years ago into a recruiter. Impact Business Group's a 2 physical location play. We're made up of 35 recruiters, collectively probably 200 plus years of experience in the industry, okay? And today we want to talk about the job search, resume, interview tips that we may have, and any questions and answers that you folks may have, okay? As I stated earlier, from an Impact Business Group standpoint, founded in 2005, our focus is IT, engineering, and accounting, finance. Peripheral, we do customer support, administration, human resources. So there's some of those peripheral skills that we get into as well, but we're founded on IT, engineering, and accounting and finance. I encourage you to hit our website, impactbusinessgroup.com. Tons of information, way to follow us, get updates on the current jobs that we're working on. As I said earlier, it's probably 200 plus collective years in the industry if you add all of the recruiters and sales folks here. Hit all areas, all disciplines. Our account managers, like myself, come from a technical capacity prior to becoming a recruiter. So we leverage those skills to really identify both with the client as well as the candidate. Want to talk again on the job search and the most common mistakes that we see from the seat we sit in as folks are looking for new jobs, where to go find jobs, and how and why to work with a recruiting firm. What's the value in working with a staffing agency? So as it gets to the job search side, the most common mistakes that we make, or we see, I should say, are folks who take a passive approach. They send their resume in and wait. They are expecting some type of interaction or Dear John letter that says, here's the status of the search, and expect to be informed on the client side. It just doesn't happen in today's market. So many of these HR professionals are doing really 12, 14, 15 tasks at one time, and getting back to you on your resume is not high on their priority list. It's not an indication of how that organization's run. It's more an indication of people trying to do, less with more. The way to look for a job today, those avenues over the last 20 years have changed the greatest. It used to be the newspaper. In today's world, it's blogs. It's social media. Following an organization on LinkedIn or Twitter. There's so many different avenues to find a job in today's marketplace. We're going to encourage you and talk through some of those main areas. But finding a job is not just applying one time and waiting for return. Recruiting firms can benefit you in your job search. How do they benefit you? Understanding, most importantly, what's important to you, the type of role, type of company that you're looking for, and leveraging those skills. Are they working with similar companies? Are they aware of jobs in the marketplace that may not be, made available to the public? A lot of organizations running confidential searches. A lot of organizations leverage recruiters for their eyes and ears to the market when top talent is available. So it's critical to align yourself with a recruiter that has been in the market that can help you in that job search. So we're going to walk through some tips from the recruiter's desk for you as well. Okay? From a resume standpoint, there's no perfect recipe for the resume. The problem with the resume, it's a one-dimensional representation of of who you are, and we as people are multidimensional. So the resume oftentimes does little to represent all the skills that you bring to the table. Most people are operating still under the misnomer that keep your resume to one page. That's not what employers are looking for today. They want your resume to be inclusive of those skills that you bring to the table. They want to be inclusive of industry experience, functional experience, technical experience. Okay? So more is better, not less. As those employers are looking through your resume, they are looking for your industry experience, your functional experience, how long you've been in your current role. They're looking for not only a technical skill set, but they're looking for an industry alignment and some type of functional skill set. And most people cannot effectively write all those skills in one page or less. Okay? What employers look for in that resume? Job stability. They look for what your specific accomplishments were. What was your role? A lot of folks will look at a resume, at least here in the market of Grand Rapids, and a lot of folks can identify with Steelcase. We all know who they are, what they do. But if you're at a company that's not, recognizable by name, oops, get some back. So whoever just joined, welcome to the call. Mute your call would be great. Thank you. Back to what I was saying on the resume is the employers are looking to understand what type of organization you're coming from. Everyone knows who Steelcase is. They know how large they are. But if you're in a smaller group, make sure you spend time on that resume telling the reader what your company does, how large they are, how many people are employed there, what they manufacture, because there could be an industry correlation that you're taking for granted that the reader has no idea what company X does. So expand upon that. Make sure the reader can understand both functional, industry, and technical skills that you're currently leveraging today. Okay? A lot of questions that we get on the resume is, should I include a cover letter? Is a cover letter important in today's world? Generally speaking, it's not. Unless the application specifically requires you to write a cover letter, most HR professionals are not reading the cover letter at all. You must understand the seat they sit in when they post a job or advertise. There's probably 80-plus respondents that come through. They're not going to read every cover letter. If you do include a cover letter, it should be short, sweet, and no more than 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, how you came to be aware of the role. Paragraph 2, how you aligned. And paragraph 3, how can they contact you? Cover letter, no more than half a page. Any questions that I can answer from a resume standpoint? Feel free to chat if you have a question. Feel free to take the phone off mute and ask. But generally speaking, the 2 biggest things that I want you to be aware of is the resume should be more than 1 page, be inclusive of functional technical skills that you're using, and a cover letter, not necessary unless they ask.
You say more than 1 page, but less than how many?
If you have 20 years of experience in the industry, 4 pages is okay.
Wow, okay.
You must understand from the reader's perspective, the hiring manager that is reviewing your resume, they're going to want to know specifically what you've done. And you can't articulate a 20-year career in a 1-page resume. What a good question.
That makes sense. It just goes against what everything you read is about.
It's exactly correct.
2 at the max, so yeah.
Yeah. Everything that we're taught and told from high school through college is 1-page resume. Everything else is just filler, and you don't want to go past 1 page. Well, if you're new to the market and just graduating high school or just graduating college and you don't have anything to talk about, they're correct. Keep it to one page. But if you've got 20 years of experience, that reader wants to understand every industry you've been involved with and specifically those accomplishments within each employer. So buck that misnomer and certainly write the resume to accurately represent the skills that you have. Any other questions on a resume that I can answer for you? Okay. Into the interview. How do you prepare for the interview? What are employees looking for in an interview? Okay. Questions that you should ask and how you should follow up are all great questions, and it's a problem for most people. And it is more of an opportunity than a problem. But an interview is that, a discussion, a chance to learn more about the opportunity, a chance to learn more about the organization, a chance to learn more about exactly what you're going to be doing. Okay? In an interview, you're going to want to ask, take an interactive approach with that person. What types of people succeed in this environment? What types of people fail in this environment? A successful interview starts at the preparation, and it starts with you using LinkedIn, using Glassdoor and understanding about that organization, about that company. Do your due diligence to prepare to understand what they manufacture, how large they are, how long they've been around. That way, when you're sitting across talking to the person, you can shed light. Here's what I know about you. Here's what I know about what you make or the services you provide. Can you help me understand what types of people succeed in this environment? By asking the interview that question, it turns it into a discussion versus an interrogation of each one of your job stays. Okay? So the key to the preparation, understand the company, use LinkedIn to understand the background of the people you're meeting with, and be prepared with questions going in there about what types of people succeed here, what types of people fail, why is this role open, what's the turnover like, what challenges would somebody face in this role. Okay? All legitimate questions. The interview's a two-way street. Don't take that interview and sit and wait for questions to come your way. And that leads to the next bullet. What are employers looking for in the interview? They're looking for you to interact. They're looking to you to come to the table prepared with who they are, what they do, how they function, and most importantly, how you're going to interact with their team. So they are going to ask you situational questions. How do you handle a certain task? Tell me about a person that's been most difficult for you to work with. Tell me about a failure in your recent role. All those questions you will face from a potential employer, not necessarily so they're looking for the right or wrong answer, but they're looking for people who can communicate, for people who can solve problems. They're not going to walk through that resume and go through each job hop and what you liked about the last boss and what your strengths and weaknesses are. They're looking for people who align culturally to their environment. Okay? And ask questions. Ask questions of them, as I said earlier. What types of people succeed here? What types of people fail? I use the golf course analogy with a lot of people during the interview prep. And for those that golf, they can relate to this. For those that don't, I apologize, but this is the best metaphor I can draw. During that interview, you're not interviewing against other people. You're not competing against them. Similar to golf, you're competing against the golf course to see what shot or score you can make and see how you align to that particular hole. You're not playing the field. Same holds true with the job interview. You're playing against that interviewee to understand, do they like me? Do I like them? Do I see myself in this role? And it's okay if you walk out of that interview and say, this isn't the right culture for me. You want to make sure you're asking those questions to understand the culture, to make sure it aligns to what opportunity is you're looking for. So those questions are critical of what types of people succeed and what types of people fail. Follow-up is equally important. Grab their business cards on the way out, shoot them an email. Shoot them a text. Thank them for their time. If you're interested in the role, let them know such. Hey, I appreciate the time you spent. I'm very interested in this role. I feel like I align culturally to this organization. Let them know you're interested. Most of the time during the interview, we take a passive approach. We wait for them to ask questions, and we don't really articulate how we feel about that organization afterwards. Tell them. It's okay to tell them so. It's okay to let them know you're interested in their company in this role. What questions can I answer for you folks as it pertains to the interview?
You're doing awesome. Thank you, though. But I don't have any at this point.
Okay. Trying to get to my last slide for you here. There's many ways, and I encourage you to reach out and ask those questions. You can tweet your questions to me directly. We're going to set up a link to this recording. We'll post it on our website. We want you to engage with us. From the seat we sit in, from a recruiting standpoint, it is, or it can be a very overwhelming process, the job search, right? The misnomer of the resume. Expand upon your skills. The misnomer about sending thank you notes or connecting with somebody on LinkedIn and showing your interest of, here's my background and here's how I align. People are reserved on that. The job market has changed. It is an employee market, right? All you folks who've joined on this conference, you're in a unique situation in that you have choices. You can do a quick Indeed search and see all the open roles that align to your skills. So it is an employee's market, meaning you have a plethora of opportunities. But with that, you got to make sure you find the right one by asking the questions about the right culture, what types of people succeed and fail. You'll uncover your ideal role. Leverage those recruiters that have relationships in targeted companies to help you unmask those opportunities. They can help. They can be your partner in this search. Make sure you work collaboratively with them, meaning you know where your resume goes at all times, and they don't send your resume out without your approval. That way you control your job search process, not them. As I said, encourage you to follow, tweet any additional questions you have from this. Browse job boards for all of our available job opportunities and connect with us here directly. If you see a job out there that aligns to someone you know or yourself, got a referral program in place, details on our website as well. More information about Impact Business Group, sign up for our newsletter. We'll continue these quarterly talk webinars to cover the job search process, and hopefully you found some piece of information from this that will benefit you going forward. Thank you all for your time, and good luck.
I do have a question.
Sure.
First off, you mentioned something about connecting on LinkedIn. When is it an appropriate time, like say you interviewed with somebody, when is it an appropriate time to actually ask for a connection? I read an article that said that you don't do it because
it's just long, this project. Yeah.
You're kind of breaking up because there's people with their mute button off. But I think your question is, what's the appropriate time to connect with somebody on LinkedIn?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, at the time of interest in the job.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
It's even if they don't have something posted. If there's a target company you have, and I'll pick on Steelcase again. Let's say your background's in the furniture industry, and Steelcase is the organization that you deem the right cultural fit. It's okay to connect with that engineering manager, that IT manager, that HR manager at that time and say, listen, here's my background. I have great interest in Steelcase. Here's my skill set. I welcome the chance to connect and have discussions to see what types of roles exist where my skills may align. So at the time of looking for a new position, it's completely appropriate to connect with somebody else.
I don't disagree with you, that's for sure. Like I say, I read articles and such on this topic, and they recommend that you don't. It almost looks like you're too aggressive. But I follow your approach, quite honestly.
Yeah, you got to remember the objective. Your objective is to find a job, and
right.
I don't know that being too aggressive. Well, I guess too aggressive is sleeping in that person's front yard, to
yeah,
connect
true.
with them in the morning. That might be too aggressive. The old Jim Harbaugh tactic might be too aggressive in that aspect, but connecting on LinkedIn is not too aggressive. It's prudent. It gives that person a chance to inspect your background as well.
Makes sense.
And have a warm conversation with you about how your skills may align.
And then the other question I had, and thank you, by the way.
Sure.
The other question I had is, you mentioned about asking questions and make it a conversation in the interview. They typically ask you the question, do you have any questions for me? And for the most part, if you've been around the industry enough, you understand what the job is for the most part. And I wrote down the notes of, what type of people are successful in the role and things like that. That's a good tip. But for the most part, if you don't have any questions to ask, is it fair to say, I understand this industry and I feel as though I understand the necessities and leave it at that? Or do you just make something up?
No, you don't want to make something up, right? Because you're being disingenuous. They'll be able to identify that pretty quickly. But asking somebody what types of people succeed or types of people fail, good question.
I agree.
About the day-to-day, is another good question. We use the SWOT analysis, right? The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Ask that question. What types of, threats or barriers exist if I were to take on this role? What would be my biggest challenge? What would you view my ramp-up time as being? What you want to do is try and open the door for conversation of what your day-to-day would look like.
Okay.
And this goes hand in hand with a message I just got in that said, how specific should one be in answering generalized questions like management style? That's an old school question, right? How is your management style, or how would you describe your style?
That's a weird question, quite honestly.
It is. But I'm asking what their management style is by saying what types of people succeed here.
Okay.
And what types of people fail. That person doing the interviewing is going to tell you what their management style. They're going to answer it saying, well, the person that succeeds here is detail-oriented, that likes to fill out, detailed time reporting systems or detailed tracking. Or it's going to be the opposite of saying, we want somebody to take the ball and run. When they run into issues, come see me. So they're going to give an indication of what management style or philosophy they subscribe to versus saying what type of management style. And you can answer that question if they're forcing you to answer what is that style. Say servant leader. And these are the types of people that you work best with. You want to be honest with them on what management style you prefer, because the last thing you want to do is fall into a role that you love the company, but their management style is counterproductive to an environment that you work the best in. So
Agreed.
Don't be afraid to answer what type of management style you prefer. Because no matter how great the client organization might be on the outside from your standpoint, if their management style doesn't align to your culture, it's never going to work.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Quite frankly, I had that in a recent interview. They asked me that specific question. And I was, I gave my version of it, but I didn't get selected for the position, but I didn't really like their culture that I was feeling, so I don't think we were on the same page.
Hence my golf course analogy, right? Who cares whether you get the position or not against somebody else? You've got to make sure it aligns to you. You're only playing you, and it's okay to walk out of that interview and say, this isn't the right fit. Let them know.
That makes sense.
They're going to appreciate your honesty, and it's the same honesty we're looking for on the interview debrief from a candidate.
And one last question, if I could.
Sure.
Other than obviously ImpactBusinessGroup.com, what other potential or job search boards do you guys recommend?
I would start and end with Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.com is a great central tool. It pulls from LinkedIn. It pulls from Monster. It pulls from all the various job posting sites.
Because I just don't feel warm and fuzzy with ZipRecruiter. I really don't.
Will you say that again? I'm sorry.
I don't feel warm and fuzzy with ZipRecruiter. I just don't. It doesn't seem, I don't know, it's just got some weird twerks to it, if you will.
Yeah, and somebody just popped up about ladders as well. You have to look at ZipRecruiter and ladders as tools or agents to uncover potential roles.
Okay.
The warm and fuzzy of it, you can't look at it that way. You have to look at them as sources for potential roles. And then
Okay.
it's up to you, to the candidate, to say, is this the right cultural fit for me? Is this the right industry? Is this the type of job I'm looking for? Back to the management style. Maybe they're a micromanaged organization, and you need that. Or maybe you are not a micromanaged person.
Understood.
So use ladders, use all these tools as
Okay.
a source for jobs. Doesn't mean it's the catch-all.
But your recommendation for the most part is Indeed, which I subscribe
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I have no issue with Indeed. I have no issue with ladders or Dice, any of these tools.
Okay.
Use them as a source to identify a role.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Going back to your question on resumes, or your comments on resumes.
Okay.
How many years back do you recommend we go? So, for example, I've got 34 years, 34 years. But
Okay.
A lot of things recommend you only go back 15 years. And I've got a lot of relevant experience that goes beyond that 15 years.
Yep. If it's relevant, post-college, post-high school, I want you to reflect on it. Because what you're doing is representing all of those different industries and skill sets that you bring to the table. If you only represent the last 15, you could be applying for, a role that's Tier 1 automotive. And your current role, you're in medical device, let's say. But 15 years ago, your first 15 years in industry was all Tier 1 automotive. What you've done is misrepresented yourself and sold yourself short on your alignment to that role, and saying, I do actually have 15 years of Tier 1 automotive. So I want the complete picture. I don't think there's anybody in a hiring capacity that wouldn't want the complete picture.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Somewhat relative to that question, then, for my example, my last long-term job, I was there 10 years. Then I had a short stint job of 6 months, which didn't go well, and then I had a very short experience of only 4 months.
Okay.
Should I omit the last 4 months? I mean, that's what I've done on my resume, because it really doesn't matter to my experiences, but it still shows, unemployment since last March, if you will.
Yeah, I would still, with your last 4 months, the job you're talking about, is it related to the job you're looking for at all? Is there any industry, functional, technical that would be applicable to a new job?
Similar, but not real in depth. Nothing that I really took from that position that would help me.
Okay. Unless you were applying with a company that was in a similar industry, then you at least have 4 months in that industry, correct?
Understood, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I would reflect on.
Okay.
Because even though your experience wasn't what you wanted it to be in a 4-month and a 6-month stint, you still learned something.
And then they always ask you a question in a phone interview, like, what happened to that position? How do you answer that? Should you just be brutally honest and say I was discharged and I'm not really sure why?
They're gonna come to that conclusion on their own to start with, right? They say
Right.
4 months, 6 months stint. They're automatically going to be making that assumption when they bring you in.
But they ask it anyway.
They're going to ask those questions on it. Yeah. Think about it from their seat, right? And if you've interviewed anybody or hired anybody in your career, think about it from your seat. When you have a resume that says 4 and 6 months, you're automatically going to look at that person and go, is it a you problem
Right.
or is it a problem? So own it. Tell them what occurred.
Okay.
Tell them what you've learned from it, and tell them what type of environment does not align. Because ultimately, the environment and culture didn't align, i.e. their management style, and that's what you're trying to eliminate.
Okay. And typically that's
Makes
the
sense.
truth, but I didn't know how much you threw out there, to be brutally honest with it.
Yeah, they're already making those assumptions when you come in, right?
Okay.
There's a 4-month stint, there's a 6-month stint. We have to find out if this candidate is the problem or it was just a bad cultural fit.
Okay.
But a good question.
Yeah, it's reality, and sometimes I ask a question for other people's benefit as well. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Hi. So I'm in a similar situation, but I'm currently on a consulting contract. Consulted most of my career. My resume is definitely too long. It's longer than 4 pages. But, from the beginning of my career to date, almost all my projects are relevant to some degree. And I've had 4 full-time jobs, and the rest of my career has been consulting. But now what I want to do is I'm looking for somebody to help me kind of rewrite my resume, not because it's, 6 pages long, but because what I'm trying to do at this point in my career is leverage everything that I've learned to date and all the experiences that I've had to date into a different role. So more of like, I'm a senior project manager. I have 18 years of IT experience. 14 of them are in project management. I have my PMP. And now what I'm trying to do is take all the experience I have. I've had exposure to 3 world-class governance models and PMOs. I've had experience working on projects as small as, $50,000 all the way up to the last project I worked on before I left my last full-time job was a $110 million project. So what I'm trying to do is sort of understand what the content of my resume really should be to leverage that into a new role that I haven't really had before, in which I'd like to be able to help people or go on full-time with a company to create a project management organization or a successful governance model or, best practices process for having a better approach to, have more success with the delivery of their projects and keeping them within budget and within schedule, et cetera. And, like I said, I've been a project manager for 14 years, and I'm trying to change that into either a full-time director level role in a PMO or the senior project management level where I have the opportunity to, contribute to the overall approach to how companies, deploy their projects and manage their projects. So that's sort of where I'm stuck. I need to revamp my resume, and I thought maybe a cover letter would help them understand a little bit more of, well, here's my past experience on my resume, but this is really what I'm looking for, and here's why. Because in my resume, it doesn't say 3 world-class PMOs, 3 world-class governance models, things like that. It just says, well, on this project, I managed this many resources, the budget was this many dollars, and the scope of work was, these bullets.
Yeah.
So,
in the last 60 seconds that you were describing your background, right, you can hear your struggles of trying to say, how do I accurately articulate my experience to lead to what that role is I'm looking for? But you answered your question. And I would encourage you, when we stand this up, to re-listen to what you just said to me. And what you just did was articulate a professional summary. So to answer your question, write the professional summary. Here's my skills. Here's what I've done. And then what your objective is. Here's the opportunities I'm seeking. I'm looking to parlay those skills into these specific roles. So when you read this or hear this back and hear your question and statement that you just made, you just wrote your professional summary, and that's what I would encourage you to do. If your resume goes 4 or 5 pages, it's fine. But what you just said to me was a professional summary of exactly what you have done at a high level and, most importantly, what you're seeking. So play it back, put it in your professional summary, and I think you've just answered your question.
Okay. Yeah, because my resume is literally, I just actually honed it down to about 5 pages. It was 7. So it's the level of detail for each role, too, that I'm struggling with to say what is important to the person reading this resume and what is really just fluff.
Yeah. You'll never know the answer to that, right? You'll never know the answer to that because there could be a skill on there that the hiring person is looking for that you never highlighted. In other words, you'll never know what that ideal candidate is. And it's an impossible task to understand it because, frankly, in a role of replacing somebody, the perfect candidate just left the job.
Right.
But how do you write a job description to write it for somebody that just left? What they're looking for is a core skill set, but most importantly, the soft attribute to say, can this person learn new skills, adapt to a new industry, work well with other people, and effectively communicate? Because the perfect person for the job just left it. They either found a new job or got let go, whatever it might be. So you want to use your resume as a summary of industry, functional skills, technical skills. But ultimately, what the reader is looking for, you'll never know what's important to them because you don't have visibility of what goes on in that boardroom. So don't overthink it. Summarize your skills, what you have done, and most importantly, what you're looking for. And let them be the judge, right? Back to the resume, most common mistakes, if I can go back to that slide here real quick, is most people put on their resume what their objective is. And maybe I didn't highlight it in here. Well, their objective is to get a job, right? An objective is a preclusive statement rather than an inclusive statement. And we want it to be an inclusive statement. Let the reader make the assumption going, hey, this person's a cost accountant, but he's coming out of an industry that aligns very well to us. I wonder if he'd be open to a controller role. Let the candidate make that determination. We want to encourage that client to reach out and ask the question of the candidate. Because a lot of times if they put on their objective saying, I'm not looking for that type of role, they're going to get precluded. And that's not what we want to have happen.
Got it.
We want to articulate our skills in a professional summary, and this is the ideal role for you.
Is the Impact Group, are you guys, are you a staffing company or a staff aug, headhunting company?
No, we do both. I'll flip to my slide and who we are, but we are a recruiting company. Our specialty is IT, engineering, accounting, finance. We do a little bit of sales, a little bit of HR, a little bit of administrative, but we are a staffing organization. We do contract. We've got 200 consultants in various capacities. We do contingent search and executive retained search.
Okay. Are you national?
2 offices, Grand Rapids and Tampa, Florida. We really just cover the central region. Not
Got
really.
It. Well, I'm actually in Miami.
Yeah, okay. So we've got an office, West Shore Boulevard, south of the Tampa airport.
Got it. So,
we service,
I'm in Miami. So
service that area. Yep.
The market here is quite a little. Go ahead.
It's a unique market there. There's no doubt.
Right. But I'm not sure I want to leave. But the job market is my issue. There is a specific company I'm targeting. Right now I'm working on a contract, but there's a specific company that I'm targeting, and I saw a role open. I forgot which website it was. It was Glassdoor or one of those. But if I don't want to go through Glassdoor or ZipRecruiter or whatever it is, who would you recommend? I'm sorry, I'm outside. Who would you how would you recommend that I find out, say what recruiting agencies or preferred vendors this company say uses to find talent and talent acquisition? This company is in my opinion, probably one of very few in Miami, and they're downtown, and they're actually a law firm. But they have a global footprint. They do have an IT organization for consulting. And, I don't want to fill out a resume online. I'd like to try and find somebody that has a direct line to their talent acquisition, or find somebody within their organization that would talk to me directly and let me send them my resume.
Yeah. And are you in the IT field?
Yeah. Well, I'm a project manager, and
fair enough.
So I've been like, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So for the seat I sit in, the answer is simple. You've got a target company you're interested in, target type of role. I do my work on LinkedIn. Connect with those director of PMO or CIO within that organization. Send them a LinkedIn connection. Very interested in your organization. Would like to connect. Talk about my suitability to your role or to your company. Don't wait for something to get posted is my answer. Don't wait for an Indeed posting, because the posting process is a reactive process. In other words, people sit in a board meeting. I sit with my IT team and say, okay, I need somebody on the help desk. I need somebody on the PMO side. And what do we do to find that person? Well, we post it. We engage with recruiters. We run our ads. We put it on our social networking. But it's a reactive process. But what it doesn't take into account is when I'm sitting in this boardroom and saying, Q1, I have no headcount approval, but I do need somebody in Q2. And if you, as a targeted candidate, reached out to me and said, hey, here's my background. I'm very interested in your firm. Here's why. How do I align? I may secure the role even before it becomes public information. I've engaged in a conversation with you and saying, listen, I have something coming up in the second quarter. From a timing standpoint, does it make sense?
Right.
You beat everybody else. It doesn't matter if it's a recruiting company or staffing partner or the posting process. So LinkedIn is where I would go because you have a specific company you're trying to reach.
Okay, got it. Yeah. All right.
Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really all that I have, other than.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Okay. If there's anything else, definitely you can track me down via impactbusinessgroup.com. Happy to answer any other questions you have.
Okay. Will I be getting an email with a link to this recording?
That's a great question. When this recording is over, we'll stand it up on our website. I don't know. This is more the marketing departments if they're able to capture and connect with you. And I don't know if I can make this visible to everybody. How can we contact you? It's a good question on this.
Yeah, because what I'm really looking for is a career coach, I think, right now to sort of help me out with the resume. As far as the interviewing is concerned, I've been doing it for so long. I think I've pretty much, I don't want to say mastered it, but I could do that for a living if there was a job interviewing. But it's the getting your foot in the door and getting the resume formatted properly so that after the first couple of pages, they don't just toss it.
Got it. And what I just did is I just typed in all my contact information on the chat box. If you click on that on the top, you'll see my contact information. I know Mark's going to stand all this up. I'll make sure all my contact information's on LinkedIn to these videos in this call. But if you click on the chat box, you'll be able to capture all that as well.
All right. So it's Matt Peel?
Yes, sir. mpeel at impactbusinessgroup.com.
Yeah, I just took a screenshot of it from my phone.
Okay.
If I called you directly, would that be all right?
Yeah, it's fine. That's why my number's there.
Okay. My name is Seth, just so you know.
Okay, Seth.
Me when I call. All right. Thanks,
No
man.
problem. I appreciate it. Is there any other questions out there?
Hi, Matt. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi. I have a question. So I've been working in my field for about 7.5 years, and I have a pretty good basis of skill set, but at the company I was working for, we didn't do certain things, or at least in my position, I didn't really work in certain areas. So really both of those are true. We didn't do certain things, and I didn't do certain specific things. It just wasn't part of my job. So when I'm looking for a new job now, I've had 2 different interviews where they've asked me specifically about ironically, it was the same thing that I didn't do in my old position. And, I tried to, kind of talk around it, but what's the best way that I should address that? And also, sorry, as a follow-up, also, for anything that we just didn't do as a company, how should I make myself more marketable in those areas, such as automated testing?
Perfect. And I was just going to ask what the specific skill deficit was they were asking. So I'll use automated testing as an example. Obviously, there's a ton of different automated testing tools that are out there, so it wouldn't be uncommon that they're looking for a specific process that you wouldn't have. But what you'll want to do is say, here's the tools I have used, here's the ones I'm familiar with, and if they ask about a specific tool you haven't worked with, let them know what you've read or know about it, but also say, I haven't worked specifically with that tool. Okay? Here's your question. How do I transition that into, is this something that I can pick up quickly? Is this a tool that I'm comfortable trying to learn? Transition into something that came up in one of your last reviews. It's a tool that I can pick up, I'm a fast learner, I reviews, it's not something highlighted me as a high aptitude person, and it's something I feel I would pick up quickly. So you don't want to misrepresent what you do or don't know, but also make sure you do represent what you do know or have read, and then validate it by saying, I'm a fast learner. I pick up things quickly. It's been highlighted in my last 4 reviews in my last 3 jobs, whatever it might be. Does that make sense?
That's perfect. Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. I have a question.
Okay.
So I actually used to work till 2014 in India, and I was in a lead position, and later I moved to US, and after that we had a baby. So now I'm trying to look for jobs. I started my job search like almost 6 months back, and I'm really sorry, but I don't know why it's like my resume is not being listed, and I don't get any calls from the recruiters. So most of the recruiters they don't reply, but I have contacted a couple of recruiters by myself and asked them like what's the reason. They said I have a gap of like around 3 years or 3.5 years, and that's the reason they are not considering my resume. So I'm wondering, like, is it tough for me to get a job in this position, or what needs to be done so that I can get a job?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that I have the perfect answer for you in that regard, but from an employer standpoint, as I said earlier, the perfect candidate is the one that just left the job. They have the industry experience, they have the functional experience, they have the technical aptitude to do that particular job. The challenge you have is that gap. What you can represent in that gap is what you have been doing, whether it be independent work. If you were a programmer, do independent work, right? Volunteer at the local university to help teach a class. Show something suitable to that particular job you're seeking so that your skills are presented in a more relevant fashion versus a 3-year gap.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I actually mentioned already in my resume that I have been doing all this kind of volunteering work where I was part of like a volunteer to so many organizations, and I have been learning like programming skills, and I have been doing some of my certifications related to my field, but still it wasn't helping me. I'm not sure like why this gap is really mattering a lot, just like getting me a job. So I'm still wondering like will I be able to work here? That's what my question is.
Yeah, and if you grab onto the chat box and grab my information, please send me an email. I'm happy to take a look at the resume and see if I have any other ideas to help bridge that gap. I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Could could you please give me your email ID? I'm sorry, but I think.
Okay. If you hit the chat box, the bubble box next to the phone, I've typed all that information in there. Can you see it?
I'm actually in a call. I'm not in the webinar, so I'm in the call. I'm calling through my phone.
No problem. Are you ready?
Yep.
My email is M, P as in Peter, E as in Edward, A as in Apple, L as in Larry, at impactbusinessgroup.com.
I would just like to spell it again. It's MPEARL.
Close. MPEAL.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Wonderful. Like I said, I look forward to any additional questions you have. Go ahead and tweet them at us. Feel free to send me an email if you'd like. We intend in these quarterly job talk webinars to make it interactive and address any questions or frustrations you're facing in the market. Wish you all a great day, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Very much. Appreciate it, Chad.